Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Please hit subscribe. Yesterday on the CNBC television YouTube channel, there was a video Jim Cramer on Tesla earnings. The doubters were wrong, the believers were right. I posted a comment saying the margin per car increases per quarter from Tesla have been really impressive. That's just something that I noticed when looking over the Q3 earnings. And it gained a lot of replies and thumbs up, and a few comments just talking about the Tesla manufacturing efficiencies. So I thought I'd do a video just addressing some of these topics and just digging into it more deeply for my own purposes. So let's take a look at the Q3 Tesla slide deck on earnings. What really jumped out to me was the automotive gross profit margin per quarter. And if we look at the number, the latest Q3 2020 number was almost 28% and a quarter over quarter growth of 223 basis points, which is about 2% every quarter. And year over year is almost 5%, which is quite a lot. Because I remember looking at Tesla and their manufacturing gross profit margins, 2018, 2017, they were below 20%. So they were around 16, 17%. So when I revisited this document, it was actually shocking to me that they're growing this number every quarter by, 200 basis points. So yeah, in 2017, 2018, it was 17, 18%. So I was pretty shocked yesterday to look at this document, and it is almost near 30%. And on Battery Day, Elon Musk said that his goal was to get this automotive gross profit margin to 30% or higher. So it's at 28. So who knows in Q4 what efficiencies they can further drive. I think if they're going to drive it at 200 basis points per quarter, this number could be 30% in Q4, which would be very huge. So another question you want to ask yourself naturally is, where does this number compare to the other companies like Porsche, Toyota, Ford? And I just wanted to take a look. So I quickly took a look at Toyota website. A lot of the major OEM manufacturers, they don't release gross profit margins per vehicle. They'll do it on an aggregate basis of the total company. So there's a good Forbes article that I found that kind of highlighted the differences between Tesla and Toyota in terms of their manufacturer capabilities and how it flows through to the bottom line. So I'm just going to go over some of the main highlights. This was a major point that says Tesla revenues have grown at a compounded CAGR, which is compounded adjusted growth rate of over 48% compared to Toyota, which is 1%, which is flat. Obviously Toyota sells 250 billion worth of cars versus Tesla's, 21 billion. So 10 times greater in terms of total sales, but revenues are growing 50x. So that's a huge, that's basically what's propelling the company. But the main thing is we look at this video is about gross margins. So we can see this article references the Q3 numbers that we've seen, that it's basically grown from 22 to almost 28 in 1 year. But in the article, it says that Toyota's margins are about 17%. So that's material difference. You're talking almost 50% lower. There's other articles that we can look at. There's a Ford one that basically says Ford's gross margin on automotive in 2017 was roughly 10%, and their profit margins before tax was roughly 5%. And I looked through their annual report. They don't go into the exact margins per vehicle, but we do know that their SUVs and their larger vehicles like the F-150 are obviously going to have larger profit margins and really drive this number. They're not going to make a ton of money off their small compact cars like the Fiesta. It's going to be all about the F-150 for them. And so Tesla, that number is very, very high if they can drive it to 28, 30%. In terms of the major OEMs, there's only really one or two other companies that can really beat it. And right now that's Porsche. And if I look at Volkswagen, their annual report from 2020, they said, this is from their 2020 report, and it was around 20%, 19%. And that's driven mainly by their high-end models like their Porsche 911, where their base price is very high. And you can see this Bloomberg article. They say that the operating margin is almost 50% on this vehicle. So that's quite a lot for, like one vehicle having a profit margin of 50%. If you exclude the rest are exotics, like if you look at Ferrari, Aston Martin. But if you look at the lower MSRP vehicles like Mercedes and BMW, their profit margin on their most profitable cars are only about 25%. And Elon Musk has said many times that he wants to drive the Model 3 gross automotive profit margin to 30% or higher. So that would be huge efficiencies. And, with their technological kind of improvements coming down the line, like the Gigafactory in Berlin and Shanghai, and the one part molding of the chassis in Model Y, he's driving a lot of efficiencies that it wouldn't surprise me if that number goes up to 35%, maybe even 40 in a year or two. And that would be huge for the company and their general manufacturing. And I found an interesting article actually from more than 3 years ago. And it's pretty timely because the title was Tesla will do in 3 years what it took Porsche 10 years to do. And that's pretty much what played out. This article was written in May 2017. And it said, after the Model 3 build out, an analyst expects Tesla to sustain gross margins of 25%. But we just saw last quarter that they printed 28%. So they even beat this number from 3 years ago from this article. And in this article, the analyst says, to put Tesla's growth in context, we note it took Porsche 10 years and 4 different product lines to grow from 35,000 units to 100,000. So they basically sum it up in saying, a profit margin above 25% is huge. And it took Porsche, 10 years plus. And it really wasn't until they introduced the Macan SUV that they were able to grow profit margins materially, besides the 911, which is an iconic brand that has been existed for more than 30 years. So it's pretty interesting what Tesla has done in 3 years to be able to grow a profit margin north of 200 basis points every quarter. And a final article I want to share with you is this article from Autoblog that said Porsche's profit per car is enough to buy another new car, which is pretty laughable. But they say, how does Porsche do it? The profit spike coincides with an output spike of 47% thanks to the debut of the Macan. So that's kind of what I said. They're driving these larger operating margins off SUVs, which have been a large trend and a higher MSRP, and very expensive iconic cars like the 911, which have extremely high operating profit margins, almost 50%. So it's interesting to note that Tesla doesn't even have a, mainstream SUV. You could argue the Model X is mainstream, but the MSRP is quite high. It's over like 80,000 in the US, right? It's quite expensive. So they don't even have a Macan-like model, which is their Model Y that they have just introduced. So one could argue that Tesla's margins could go even higher, 30, 40%, because of they don't even have a SUV like Macan yet. And what I found very interesting in this article is he says, you can buy a Macan for a mere 47,000, but no one does. Throw in a few creature comforts and you're past 60K in a flash. The profit building with each line item added. So I was looking at a new SUV and I've done some videos you should check out on my website where I looked at basically buying a base Macan, which what this analyst says no one does. And that obviously would be a low profit margin for Porsche. But I just tested a Model Y. I love it. And there's all these standard finishes that would be crazy options in the Porsche that would drive the price way up. So that's why I kind of decided on the Model Y. I'll be ordering it next year. So I'll do more videos on that. That's kind of the end of the video. I just wanted to analyze all the profit margins from the majors and other luxury OEM brands that compete with Tesla. So thanks for listening. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. Bye.